everyone. I hope you're taking it easy, feeling breezy, because today's episode is with Aaron Nosbisch, the founder of BRÄZ, which is a total e-commerce rocket ship in cannabis. They seemingly came out of nowhere to hit something like $30 million in annualized revenue. Their functional beverages come in two lines. One is infused with hemp-derived THC. The other is non-infused, and it just features the 2,200 milligrams of lion's mane. They come in these beautiful, shimmering, rainbowish cans. You've got to go to their website and check them out. In today's episode, we talked about how did this happen? What was the regulatory environment that they launched in? What was Aaron's background in cannabis that prepared him to do this? What was the process of creating the liquid, the branding, and really what were his core competencies beforehand? It's an awesome story. I can't wait for you to hear it. One note is that since recording the episode, Governor Gavin Newsom did issue an emergency order that actually banned hemp-derived THC in California. So surely that'll be fought by a lot of people in the industry through the courts. Currently, BRÄZ is shipping to 44 of the 50 states. Okay, enjoy, everyone. All right, here we go. Okay, Aaron, it is great to have you here on the podcast. I had heard about BRÄZ from a few different people in the industry. I see it a lot now on LinkedIn also, and I know very little about the cannabis space and even less about functional mushrooms like lion's mane. So I'm very happy to have you here so I can get some education here, I think directly from somebody who's like right in the barrel of it. And I think a lot of people will enjoy listening as well. So do you mind just first up, can you share a little bit about your background?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, thanks for having me, man. I think your podcast is awesome, and I'm super excited to be here and to kind of merge this kind of line between CPG and cannabis that I think has been trying to get merged for a while, and I think it's finally the time. So a little bit about me. My name's Aaron. I'm the founder and CEO of a brand called BRÄZ. BRÄZ is the fastest growing cannabis beverage in the market today, and also one of the fastest growing beverages in general. And kind of unique about us is we focused on direct to consumer, which is a bit atraditional for the beverage industry, and have found a lot of success in doing so. We've scaled very quickly. We started about 15 months ago, and we're doing about 2.5 million in monthly revenue today, and I think we've moved about 4.5 million cans so far, and heading towards maybe 7 or 8 for the year. And it's an exciting and thrilling and challenging, and no one really warned me how different really beverage it was of a vertical in the CPG category. It's not the same, and it's challenging, but it's a lot of fun.
These are crazy numbers, Aaron. Probably like I bet you know, because you talk to other people who are beverage entrepreneurs. They're just like, what? That can't be right. That's crazy. How do you even plan operationally to be able to grow that fast?
That's a great question. I think, unfortunately, a lot of it's reaction. I wish a little bit more planning. That might save us some headaches. But I think I have a lot of experience in e-commerce. I come from about like a 15-year history of e-com and scaling direct-to-consumer brands, and I've been through this kind of cycle of scale before. So I'm a little familiar with like what it looks like to have this kind of breakneck pace. That being said, I hadn't done it in a beverage before, and beverage is a product that's big. You get to do pallets of it. It gets put on trucks and gets shipped around, and the shipping it's also heavy. So honestly, I don't know if there's a lot of planning. One of the key principles is I try to keep it simple. Like at the end of the day, e-commerce is making a product, selling it, and shipping it. So if I can stay core to those principles and just refine those aspects of it, that makes a lot of the rest of it a lot easier. So, yeah.
Okay, so just before we get into the whole BRÄZ story, tell me real quick, because you sound like a total e-com pro. What's your e-com playbook? You don't have to give away all the good stuff, but just generally, if I'm like, okay, I'm going to go and start, a snack company, like what's my e-com playbook? What do I have to do to try to get a portion of the success that you've had?
Yeah, honestly, it's pretty standardized at this point. There hasn't been a ton of like major innovation in the e-commerce landscape. So today, I would highly recommend a platform like Shopify. Shopify, I think, is just amazing. It has a really great ecosystem. A lot of people call it like the e-commerce operating system. So a lot of the tools that you would need to go and find other solutions for with other platforms, you'll just get native in Shopify. So I would highly recommend Shopify. When it comes to acquisition sources, Meta is still the king. So Meta advertising, it has a really great data. It's been doing it for a long time. They've been working in the AI field for a very long time and have really advanced technology that allows you to show your ads to people who are highly relevant. So Meta advertising is still king. Google is also a great source. The new entrants to the space are things like TikTok Shop, which is a huge opportunity for CPG products. You're able to work with other users on TikTok who can promote your product. They get a commission of those sales, which essentially makes the entire TikTok user base potential affiliate pool for you to source new customers from. So that's a big opportunity. Outside of that, it's kind of a traditional playbook. Yeah, you want to be looking into SEO. You want to be looking into email marketing. That's the real key one is email marketing and making sure you're serving your customers there. SMS and push notification marketing. PR, so public relations, affiliate. Affiliate is another channel that you need to be looking at. But if just strip it all back and make it what I like to call keep it simple, stupid. It's really you need an e-commerce website. This is your store, and you need an advertising channel to acquire net new traffic. And Meta is where you should start. Just picking that as a single channel and a single solution and optimizing for. You can build a $10-20 million company a year just doing that, and really nothing else. Maybe that plus email marketing.
Sounds simple. I think I should just hang up now and go and give it a go and build a $10 or $20 million company. All right. Just, I guess, last question on that front before we move on is what's the percentage, I would say, of like users or revenue that's coming from those different channels for you, from like D2C, from TikTok Shop, any of those other big ones for you?
Yeah. So for to start, like e-commerce versus retail, about 5 to 10% of our sales come from retail. So the other 90%, let's call it D2C. Of that 90%, I'd probably say close to 50% is Meta advertising. So Facebook and Instagram, they really are the king. They have a better solution than most anyone. And for better or worse, that's just kind of the name of the game today in direct to consumer e-commerce. From there, I think TikTok Shop probably does another portion of maybe 20%, something like this. And then from there, we have subscription built into our storefront as like a core aspect of the business. So repeat purchase and subscription is probably another 30% of revenue. And kind of email, fuels all of that. There's some kind of crossover that goes into that, but that's about how the breakdown would work.
Okay. Now we've got a little bit of the frame. Still, probably everybody's like, what though? how'd you grow it so fast? So can you just tell us a little bit more about like, what is the story of BRÄZ? Like, what is this brand that has resonated so well with people, obviously aligned with your e-commerce playbook also?
Yeah. So it starts like it's with every great product. You really have to start with a really fantastic product. Like it's not just putting, so this kind of rise of this cannabis industry is kind of important. They had the cannabis industry, you've had the alcohol industry for a very long time. There's this new category class coming out, which is hemp-derived THC beverages. And what they're doing is in 2018, the Congress made hemp, and specifically hemp with below 0.3% THC by weight, federally legal. So if you extract your THC from hemp and you put it in a beverage where it's below 0.3%, that becomes a legal THC. So, part of it is not just taking THC and putting it into a can, but actually really focusing on the craft cocktail experience, a really complex and beautiful flavor profile, a great smell profile. And then for us, we use what we call coactive. So we've taken lion's mane and a unique extract and form of it and fused it with our THC to create a really unique effect. When you try BRÄZ, it's very nice. It's a happy buzz that's euphoric and uplifting and social. And, it's a combination of creating an amazing product, but then identifying a really important problem to solve for that product. So for us, the reality is, as fun as alcohol is, it's a pretty costly thing. If you zoom out of those great times, you see a lot of hangovers and regrets and unfortunate experiences that people are waking up to is something that they don't want in their life, or they want an alternative or a little bit of space from. And BRÄZ comes to solve that problem. We're giving people a truly efficacious alternative to alcohol where they can have a social uplifting buzz, but not with the same consequences and cost. So identifying a great product and an important problem to solve, that's first key. Then the marketing is all just amplification on that, So for us, from that point is, okay, how do we craft a brand that really articulates that without even saying it? How can you just look at our product and feel that? So that's where deep design, deep branding, trying to play with shapes and colors and curves that other people aren't, that invoke a feeling in the user without us even having to say anything, was really core to the brand building process. And then from there, building a direct response friendly website. So make it simple for people to buy your product. This is like obvious, but yet people struggle with it. And I think that if you don't if you don't do the table stakes right, you'll never be able to get to scale. So you have to do those things right initially. So building for us, it was a very simple website. We had a product page, we had the core homepage, we had one landing page for our advertising, and that was it. And optimizing that to be very fluid and frictionless. From there, amplification sources like advertising.
So where did it start? Was it like, hey, I want to do this and let me work on the product first and figure out how to drive the THC from hemp? Or was it like, I have this idea for a brand and then trying to, match it with the product? Like, which came first? And then how did you go about developing the branding, which is very cool and evocative?
Thanks, man. Well, for me, so I've been in the cannabis and the e-commerce space for a very long time. One of my other companies is called Lucid, which is the largest cannabis social advertising agency in the world today. We do about 90% of all ads for cannabis brands and hemp brands most particularly. And so I had a lot of experience in this hemp advertising, hemp marketing world. And I had tried a couple of these new hemp THC beverages that were coming out. And I realized as a previous pro drinker, I would say, I realized that this is really an effective alternative. Like, this is something I can take with my friends and family and feel like I'm part of the party without having to consume alcohol. And so that was a revelation first that led me wanting to pursue this path.
And the other ones that you tasted, like, how are you thinking about those ones in terms of taste profile versus BRĒZ?
Yeah, I think a lot of them just tasted like a LaCroix or a seltzer. And personally, I'm not that big of a fan of LaCroix or seltzers. Like, I wanted something a little bit more pleasant, but not so pleasant that it's so sugary and yucky like a soda might be. So it's finding that right balance there where it's and I like craft cocktails. I like a complex flavor that allows me to kind of explore it and enjoy it as more of an experience. So.
Yeah, I agree with you on LaCroix. I don't really drink it because for me, it seems like it doesn't have any body to it, but then the flavor comes in, it doesn't taste so good.
Kind of tart,
it feels a little
bitter.
It's not so good. So so I've got BRĒZ here. First, for anyone who's just listening to the podcast and not watching the video, I want to encourage you to go and check out what the branding looks like. But I've got two of the SKUs here. So I've got the first one, which is the Live Free one that has the microdosed cannabis and mushrooms in a can. And it's a very cool, like, kind of rainbow, like holographic looking fun design. And if you look at their ads online, you'll see that's what they're showing, and it looks cool on there too. So that'll be like, okay, yeah, I could see why that would hit pretty well online. And then the other SKU that I have here is the one that just has lion's mane in it, which I might drink during the day when I'm recording podcasts, and then maybe switch to the other one at night. So, okay, when I taste this, let me tell you what I taste, and you can tell me, if I'm getting this right. So I'll take a little ASMR sip here.
And this is the infused one you're having.
Mm-hmm. Starting with the pure fun one. Yeah. Okay. So what I get from this is definitely citrus, acidic, like a little acidity to it. I get a little bit of a grassiness, I think. And overall, it's a very pleasant taste. It's not exactly familiar to me, but something in between like a ginger ale or something like that. But then there's something new in here also. Right. And it's nice. And everyone that I know who's tried it has been like, oh, that tastes good also. So let's see. Did I get any of that right, or am I losing my beverage chops?
Oh, hey man, I think whatever your experience is right. My how I typically associate it is like almost like a lemon lime soda without the syrupiness. There's like that ginger ale kind of bite, but there's that lemon kind of zest. I used to drink a thing called Ski in like Southern Illinois, which was like a lemon lime soda, and Squirt was another one where it kind of has a little bit of that, and I was going for something that was like mainstream accessible yet unique and fun to drink. And then from there, our goal was novelty. I think this is what really a lot of consumer packaged goods products miss, is that they replicate what is working rather than try to create new. And creating new is scary, but when you do it and you succeed at it, then you have novelty. And novelty is a surprise and delight sensation for the consumer when they drink it. So like you said, it has that kind of like citrus forward, flavorful, almost like sweetness to it. But then there's a bit of a bite at the back end. And some people maybe say it's grassy or herbaceous is what we often use. And there's a little bit of a bite, which kind of gives you that sense of drinking an adult beverage. Just like with alcohol, you have a bit of a sting. And with the infused one, you have a little bit of that bite at the back end. A little less on the lion's mane, I think.
Right. The lion's mane one. Yeah. I mean, I guess I don't get the grassiness on it, but I mean, it's pretty smooth. I would say it tastes kind of like a similar profile, but it doesn't have exactly that component of it. Is that about right?
That's right. Yeah. And elderflower is a unique one too. I don't know if you've ever had a gin and tonic with like Saint Germain. They use like an elderflower liqueur. That was also an inspiration, is kind of that like, I wanted that sweet ness, but with a little bit of uniqueness. And I have a really great partner, Travis Duncan, who's the master formulator here at BRÄZ. And he really kind of just explored and played with it for a long time until we got something we thought was, familiar enough, but unique enough to succeed.
That's cool. There's almost nothing for me as fun, but also stress inducing as beverage formulation. Like getting the feedback. Crazy. Can we settle on this? Like, oh God, no, what if we get it wrong? There's so much product that we're going to get out here. But yeah, you guys did a great job. Excited to hear from everybody else who gets to try it also. Okay. So we've got a cool branding now that how exactly did you get to that branding? Like, did you get an agency or was just you guys doing the work? And like to, even get to the name and the overall feel of it? Who was coming up with that stuff? What was the process like?
Yeah, so most of that was me. I have a skill set in marketing and branding and in e-com. And I always tell people when they're starting their business is like, look and identify where your skill sets are and really lean into that as kind of your launch pad. So for me, that was branding and design and look and feel. And a lot of that comes from what, I like to look at and how I like to feel. And so for that one specifically, I was trying to come up with a name, and I was in a small airplane on a vacation, and I opened the window and I felt the breeze while I was flying over this thing. And I'm like BRÄZ, like that's it. It's a refreshing idea. It's clean. It's fun. It's healing. It's therapeutic. You have this kind of like happiness that I think is associated with that name, but I wanted to do it in a way that was different than the word BRÄZ. In branding, I often think like if you can come up with unique words that don't mean anything actually, then you can instill the meaning in them. And so, when you see BRÄZ, it doesn't look like BRÄZ as you're familiar with it. So it gives us an opportunity as a brand to tell you what that means and show you and let you feel it so that way you can understand it more directly. This is something I think you'll get a kick out of. So one of the issues with cannabis, as therapeutic of a product as it is, a lot of people smoke it. And when you smoke it, you're inhaling, burnt plant matter. So that's kind of a negative thing. So BRÄZ is also short for breathe easy. So BRÄZ is breathe easy. And the idea there is it's an alternative way to consume cannabis that's allows you to breathe easy.
Okay, amazing. So now, just from the functional standpoint, so my first question is, I don't know, honestly, what lion's mane is. I think I saw a photo of it once. I know it's a big deal and people are talking about it a lot these days, but can you give me the just 101 on what is it? What would the amount that's in here help somebody do, obviously, with like the amount that's in here? Yeah.
Absolutely. So lion's mane is this big white mushroom. Maybe, it can be pretty large, and it kind of looks like a brain. And that's a good way of remembering it is lion's mane kind of looks like a brain. The reason that's a good way to remember it is because it's very supportive of your brain. So lion's mane is the most studied cognitive enhancing mushroom in the market in the functional mushroom category. It's known to do something which is stimulate NGF. NGF is neural growth factor. And so the stimulation of neural growth factor is also the precursor to building new brain cells in the mind. It also increases neuroplasticity, so it's your ability for your mind to change its mind, to learn new things, to incorporate new things. Now that's more of the science of what it is, and it has a whole host of benefits, including anxiety relief and stress relief. And it's an adaptogen, which adaptogen means help your body adapt to stress. And so it's very therapeutic in those regards. What I think most people feel when they drink it is a sense of clarity, maybe a refreshed kind of stress relief, calming effect, and sometimes a sense of focus or motivation. And we use a pretty concentrated amount of it. And then we have also nano-emulsified it, which means that you're going to feel it quickly. Most lion's manes are not like that. So you don't feel it very quickly, where ours you will. I think that's, and then in the infused one, by combining that with the THC, you get a synergistic effect where you're getting both benefits of the THC from hemp and the full spectrum cannabinoids from that hemp, as well as the lion's mane, which creates a third effect, which is like this uplifting, clear, and social feeling. So you get a buzz, but you're not out of your mind like you might be with alcohol. Okay.
And I'm definitely focused and motivated to drink more of it. It's great.
Heck yeah.
And I'm feeling that. Yeah. And then on the hemp-derived THC side. So that's super interesting. I did not know about that. Probably a lot of people do. But then in terms of the effect that it has on you, is it just pretty similar to other kinds of THC? And it just happens to be that because of the regulation, like you can just do it this way, but it's really the same thing as the other stuff. And it's like a loophole.
So yes and no. So the yes part is THC, no matter if you get it out of a joint in your dispensary or an edible that your friend has or from hemp, is still tetrahydrocannabinol, delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol. So you hear this delta-9 word said a lot, right? Delta-9 is actually just the prefix on the word THC. So it's delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol. So they're the same compound. But what is interesting about these beverages is us and other beverages in the category, we use a nano-emulsified form of THC. And what that means is the particles get broken up to be very small, which means that they absorb quickly and then they wear off quickly. So how that's different is if you smoke a joint, you kind of get this really high really fast, and then you kind of fall off pretty quickly. If you eat an edible, you're on this kind of 30 to 60 minutes, and then you feel it, and then it lasts 4 to 6 hours. Part of that is how it metabolizes in your liver. It creates another compound called 11-hydroxy, but it's a different effect. But when you drink a BRÄZ or a product comparable, you feel it within about 5 minutes to 15 minutes, and then it goes away in about an hour to an hour and a half. So it's much more comparable to the effect curve of alcohol. And then due to the introduction of lion's mane into the beverage, you get this like social, uplifted, happy feeling initially, which also then leads to a relaxed, calm feeling from the THC on the backside. Comparable to alcohol. When you drink a beer, you're getting a dopamine hit initially from the ethanol, but alcohol is actually a relaxant. So you're ultimately going down, getting sleepy and tired. And so our goal here was to make a real alcohol alternative to something that could actually compare and scratch the itch for people. It needs to be similar in the effect profile and the effect speed and onset and offset. And I think that's really what we optimized around in order to fit the existing behavior of consumers.
I like the mechanism. And, I'd always heard people were kind of excited about beverage just as a way to, like, how much you're getting also. And it's kind of like a more consistent amount. I remember way back in college once having a brownie, and it just didn't kick in for so long. I think it was like 2 hours later, I'd totally forgotten even that I had eaten it. And then I was in a music class and all of a sudden wondered why I could not stand up. Oh, jeez.
You hear that a lot too. It's unfortunate, like I often say, like, unfortunately, the current state of the cannabis industry is like walking into a liquor store without labels, grabbing something off the shelf and drinking it. Like, you don't really know what you're getting. You don't know how, so that's why this is such a unique innovation, not just for BRÄZ, but for this category is, like you said, it's a cap dosage. So there's only so much potency in this. You can't go beyond it, and so you know what you're getting as you go into it. And just like alcohol, you kind of feel your drink as you're drinking it. So you kind of can titrate how much you're consuming to how you want to feel. And that's really not been very possible with cannabis before, other than smoking, which a lot of people at bars and restaurants might find offensive if you pulled out a joint and started smoking.
I don't really smoke a lot, but I still do enjoy the smell. I was like at an event last night and somebody was just smoking a joint near us. I was like, I just kind of enjoy the wafting of it as long as, it's not too much. And so you've selected 5 milligrams as the amount to have in the can, which, seems like a good amount. Like I saw one of those Pabst Blue Ribbons in California, their cannabis one that had 10. I'm like, holy smokes. Like if someone doesn't know what that dose is and just picks one of those up, they're going to be rocked.
Absolutely. Well, and you see, the issue there is that cannabis has been restricted to the dispensary channel for such a long time. And the people who are often going to dispensaries, marijuana dispensaries or cannabis dispensaries, are looking for high doses. They're looking to get, a pretty intense buzz. They want to get high. And so often when you go in those markets, they're really only selling the products that people are going into there to buy, which are high dose. But that's not the mainstream market. The mainstream market, the alcohol consumers, the rest of us, we're not looking to necessarily go to the moon. We're looking to feel a little bit better. And that's what we optimized for, is a beverage that will give you a good dose, but you can still maintain a sense of clarity and consciousness and ableness. But then you can stack it if you want. So if you want to go up there, just like a beer, have a couple more.
It makes sense. It's not like we all go to the bar and order Everclear 151 shots just to get the best bang for buck. We're there trying to enjoy the drink, have a good time, more measured, right? So it makes sense that people are looking for different things when they specifically go to the dispensary. Okay, so in general, you basically can ship this anywhere. It sounds like that, the way the regulations are, like the way that you've made the product, generally, most places that you want to send it to.
We'll be right back.
Is your CPG business taking off? You can easily check off the EDI capable box as you break into retail. SPS Commerce is your gateway to retail growth. With over 1 million existing trading connections and counting, you get instant access to the largest network of up-to-date, mapped EDI connections to retailers, distributors, 3PLs, brokers, and other supply chain partners without doing any of the heavy lifting yourself. With over 20 years of experience, SPS Commerce is the partner you can trust to get you up and running quickly and be there to scale with you as you grow. Plus, their team of experts is available 24/7 for support, ensuring you have everything you need. Visit spscommerce.com today to book a demo or learn more. And now, back to the show.
Yeah, that's right. There's a few states that have created laws that prohibit hemp-derived THC. For example, Alaska, Idaho. There's a couple of them, but other than that, we can ship them most everywhere. There's a federal law that made this legal on a federal level, and then now states are introducing additional infrastructure and regulation that make it both safe and accessible. And we're trying to support that.
So, and just a little bit more about like the context that this came out of. Were there already drinks when you guys launched that were making an aggressive play for this space in the D2C business, or were you really one of the first?
Not so much in the D2C side, a little bit, but so kind of it really started in 2018, and you probably remember some of these brands. So 2018, the Farm Bill passed, and then 2019, new CBD products started popping up, and that was the legalization of CBD, and that's where that proliferated for a while. So you had brands like Mad Tasty come out, which is a really cool product. There's a lot of these awesome CBD products that came out, but they weren't really giving anyone a buzz, and that's what a lot of people were looking for is like a light buzz or a diet weed, let's call it, and that wasn't happening. So when we got into space, there were a few other players. Can was one of them. CANN, they're great brand, great product, great team. And they had just gotten into the hemp space, and they actually had come to our advertising agency looking for some support, and we helped them and helped generate a lot of success for them. And so it kind of that was probably one of the first early movers in the direct to consumer space, but no one was really focused on it. And I mean, frankly, rightly so. Beverage is not traditionally a D2C channel, like our D2C product. Like there's been very few beverage companies who have succeeded at D2C, and definitely not at scale. And so that was kind of like, hey, can we take our unique skill set and honestly, some of our naivete of just not knowing the rules of beverage to try to make this work. And thankfully, we found a path that did work.
Yeah. And so, okay, take Can, for example. I mean, I know they did do a lot of stuff in dispensaries, I think, but they also, I mean, they had to open up co-mans in a lot of different places, right? Because there are rules about taking the product across state lines for what they make. And so it seems like your approach, I mean, at least would be a lot lighter in terms of resources.
They started as a regulated dispensary product. They were kind of the first pioneer of kind of a low dose THC beverage in dispensary channels. But then I think they realized, and kind of everyone, is that people going into dispensaries weren't really looking for low dose anything. And so, so that was kind of the challenge. And then they released a hemp derived variation of their product, which would make it federally legal, where they could ship it to more states. I think they only started with 30 states or something out of the gate and then expanded from there. So they were one of the first to kind of use hemp and then transfer from the regulated cannabis industry to this hemp industry, which made it much more accessible, far less barriers to entry, way less corruption and political nonsense. And so that's where a lot of that started. And now it's everyone. Now you see major MSOs like GTI, Green Thumb Industries, or Curaleaf, which is top 2 cannabis brands in the world. They all have released hemp-derived THC lines now so that they can have more access points for consumers.
And I will say one thing I also just thought of that I appreciate about it is that you don't, the like tabs that you have on the can.
I hate them.
PVR. They're like, I've never said, honestly, as a guy, I've never said this before. Like, I'm afraid of breaking a nail on those. You're like, how the F do I open this thing so hard? So anyways, just a nice, just part of your nice breezy experience. Okay. So in terms of who the consumers are, because you're obviously ripping on e-com, like your ads are doing great. Who are the people that you're picking up so much? Are they like people who, I mean, because obviously you have the 2 different product lines. So yeah, who are the people, and is it different for the 2 lines or a lot of crossover?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, most people when they're thinking about e-commerce or just CPG, it's really demographic. How can you identify who that demographic is that's buying buying your product. I didn't really come with that approach. I came with a little bit different approach, which I call psychographic targeting. So psychographic targeting meaning like, what are the qualities about a lot of people in many different demographics that would be the same for us? And so for us, that was people who are looking for an alternative to alcohol that still feels good. Like, the issue I think with the non-alcoholic space is it's all of the sugar and calories and carbs minus the fun. And I think there's a lot of people who are looking for the fun minus the sugar, calories, and the carbs, just in a more net positive way. So that was the real vision at the beginning was there's this subset of people, and sometimes they're older and sometimes they're younger. Sometimes they're female and sometimes they're male. Sometimes they live in California or New York. But this group of people has this desire for a drink that will help them feel better at a much less cost and maybe even a net positive. And so that was the target, is how can we speak to that consumer? And using language just like I'm using right now on the show. And what happens is people who feel that way resonate and have an affinity towards that. And that doesn't really have as much demographic profile restrictions. Now, as we've expanded, now we're identifying cohorts of people who are, older demographics, maybe like this one with a little less THC and, younger. Or recently we've identified that females buy more often, but they're often buying for their husbands as well. And so there's more details that we've kind of are expanding into now that we're a bit bigger. But that psychographic targeting was really the heart and soul, and still is, of BRÄZ, is offering those who are consuming alcohol a solution that allows them to feel better without feeling worse.
So do you think a lot of the people who are buying this are non-drinkers? They're trying to cut down on their alcohol, which I'm just consistently blown away by how high the percentage of my friends who are trying to cut down on the alcohol is, or have just cut it out completely. And like, what are they doing with it? Are they drinking it at home typically, like on a nightly basis or for a weekend, or they're taking it to a friend's house? Yeah,
great question. So honestly, it's mostly people who are drinking who want to drink less or not drink at all. And what's funny is it's not very many cannabis users. Like I'd say 80% of our customers rarely to never use cannabis. Like they don't really even see us as a cannabis product. They kind of see us as a functional beverage or an alcohol alternative. And so it's a lot of people who drink and have came to maybe an increased awareness of the consequences of it, and they want a better solution that allows them to feel good still. And so that's where we see the majority of our users. Something funny about this is I think there was a stat just recently is 43% of Americans in 2023 said that they were cutting back on drinking or stopping drinking altogether in 2024. And, it's kind of funny. It started with the younger generation. I think they had the opportunity of seeing their parents and kind of modern society, and kind of if you look at alcohol from an objective view, it doesn't look very fun. It's only fun once you try it, And so I think a lot of them saw that, and then I think the internet proliferated this kind of collective understanding of the consequences, and which has led trends. They go up, they don't go down. Grandma doesn't usually tell you what's cool. Grandson tells you what's cool. So I think the younger generation has kind of started the trend of not drinking, which has now led to the rest of us saying, yeah, maybe that isn't the best for us. Maybe we should look for other ways to feel better.
Yeah, it's just so interesting to reflect on, because I lived in LA up until a couple weeks ago, and I would have parties at my house, and I was blown away by at least half the people when I had a party. It could be on a Friday night. We're like, oh, I'm not really drinking. Do you have something else, like a sparkling water or like? And I know if I had this in the fridge, they would have been like, oh yeah, that's cool though. Pretty interested in that. And yeah, I still am not totally sure why everybody avoids it. Whether it's like, okay, me, like I get super hungover now. Even I can get hungover from one drink, and I'm like, I want to be able to have the drink and have a good time and not feel that way in the morning. But unfortunately, my body disagrees with me, and so like, yeah, but I won't feel bad off this. I think it still has like, unfortunately for me, any kind of like THC will still make me eat things that I don't want to eat. But also, I think alcohol actually does that as well. I think it's more about just the like, okay, maybe your like willpower to be super healthy just goes down a little bit whenever you do something fun, unfortunately.
The hangover thing's not really isolated to you. It's everyone. Like that's the thing is like alcohol is inherently toxic to the body. Like that's just what it is. It's why it's intoxicating, is because it's toxic towards the body. And so it's like your body has to process all that. Your liver has to do a lot of work depending on how much you're drinking. And the older you get, the more challenging that becomes. Then the length and the degree of the hangovers, they get worse. But I mean, honestly, hangovers are sometimes the least of our problems when it comes to alcohol. Like, like the regrets, the things you didn't say, the drinks you spill over, the glass, the bruises you get maybe if you fall over it. Like, and it's not the same for everyone. And I'm not over trying to demonize alcohol. I just think it's kind of odd that for such a long time, we've as a society, we've agreed that there's 3 drugs that we're cool with, which is like alcohol to help us fall asleep, nicotine maybe to get us through the day, and coffee to wake us up. And like those ones we're cool with. Everything else, I don't know. It's like that's an odd thing. And I think just like tobacco, we became more aware of like the real impact it was having, and kind of have evolved our stance as society on it. And I think that's coming for alcohol. And I don't think it's about prohibition. I'm in fact an anti-prohibitionist, but I do think it's about real awareness of the real impacts of these, and then looking for like BRÄZ is just a one of many in a growing category of functional beverages that are looking to curate new experiences for people that don't come at consequences, and that's exciting, man. Like I think it's about time that we all had access to a bit more. I mean, there's thousands of plants and herbs and fungi that can do all kinds of amazing things that are therapeutic for us and feel good, and I think that's what the future of drinking looks like.
Okay, so, and then what the future of BRÄZ? First, can you tell me a little bit about, okay, you have a small percentage now that's retail. Are you planning to increase that? And what kind of outlets would those be? Can you go and sell in Whole Foods, or you have to focus on certain states or certain channels?
Yeah. So retail expansion is where beverage companies get big. D2C was kind of a unique path for us to become an emerging beverage quickly, to break through. The whole beverage industry is kind of screwed up in the first place. It's kind of like a lottery. Like you start a brand, hopefully you break through. Most don't, 90% don't. But if you do break through, you typically scale pretty big, pretty quickly. And that's due to retail distribution. There's a lot of infrastructure, and decade-old infrastructure, to distribute beverages through retail. So for us, D2C has been our channel to connect with the consumer and expand initially, but retail expansion is ultimately today, I think, probably the only path to get real mass consumer adoption. So we're working with new beer and wine distributors. We're working with new, more functional beverage distributors, traditional grocery distributors. You can buy BRÄZ in places like grocery stores, bodegas, liquor stores, restaurants. We have a lot of on-premise locations that sell BRÄZ. And the thing is, with like a new category like this, there is some evolution of regulation that is at play here. We currently, it's not law that you would have to be 21 plus, but the entire category requires it to be 21 plus to consume or to buy our products. And so things like that, there's new access points that are being created, and new regulation that's ensuring that minors don't accidentally grab these or use these products. And thankfully, that there's a lot of good actors in a very unified industry to make sure that that's the case.
Yeah, great. Okay, and so maybe like today, you're saying you are in retail already, so maybe it's in some states where probably it's like not even like a total legislative thing. It's just like what the retailers are willing to do at this point, and so like you're probably picking up some retailers or states that are more progressive, and then probably eventually they're all going to come around, and you'll be in a pretty good position when that happens.
Yeah, so there's the federal that allows it, and then each state can make their own laws. Most are permitting it. Some are putting some restrictions on it. Like an example of a state that's very permissive would be Minnesota. Minnesota has just opened the gates and created regulation that facilitates it. So many bars and restaurants, grocery are carrying it. And then, there's in beverage, especially in alcoholic and adult beverage, there's a 3-tier system. So you have your brand, your distributor, and your retailer. And so a lot of distribution companies are now taking on these types of beverages, which is kind of the precursor to getting more mainstream distribution. So for us, I think we're selling in maybe 30 or 40 states in retail locations. We're probably about 450 different locations at the moment. And it's everyone from the grocery to liquor to, but ultimately, as long as the state permits it, I think it will be most places.
We'll be right back. Are you paying a ton in shipping to send out product, samples, and whatever else? The fees really add up, but lucky for you, we now have a partner that gets you access to the discounted shipping rates that are usually only available to those big companies. I worked with them for my last beverage brand, and I can tell you they definitely got us savings. Whether you're sending overnight samples, fulfilling e-commerce orders, or even a 40-foot ocean container, our partner, Enterprise Purchasing Group, or EPG, has got you covered. There are a bunch of free benefits you can get by signing up with them. You can get up to an 86% discount on small parcel shipments from UPS, DHL Express, UPS, and more. You get really competitive LTL and FTL rates through UPS. You get discounted spot and fixed ocean rates through Flexport and Maersk. You get exclusive air freights, and you also get preferential terms with supply chain financing. All you need to do is reach out to Francis Agas. His email is francis, Francis, at enterprisepurchasing.com. Mention the Startup CPG discount and take advantage of those savings. Good luck, everybody, and happy shipping. And now, back to the show. Amazing. Yeah, and I mean, it's so hard to understand those regulations because I think it's harder to compare how you feel about like cannabis versus alcohol or something when you're just like smoking one and drinking the other and like hard to measure. But I feel like once it's in a can like this, I can pretty directly drink one can of this with nice 12-ounce sleek, and I can drink one 12-ounce sleek of like a RTD cocktail or an alcohol and like really understand the impact of the two. And they're not that different, right? So it's hard
more
to
comparable than different. For sure.
Yeah. I mean, like people prefer different ones, and obviously the benefits we've talked about of, one versus alcohol and everything. But yeah, so that's pretty interesting. And then how about like for you guys then, are you going to be just focused on like you've got the great products now and I'm just going to try to get them everywhere? Or are you already evolving the product lines and, responding to consumer feedback? What are your plans for BRÄZ?
So we have our infused and our non-infused line. And part of that was getting access to different distribution points. So for example, Whole Foods might have not decided to or not to take on THC beverages yet, but they do carry a lot of lion's mane beverages or functional products like this. So our plan right now is we're working on a full lineup of both infused and non-infused that will allow us expansion in both traditional retail locations in emerging retail opportunities where we can sell the infused. So, my goal and our team's goal is really to craft experiences. Like I think the thing that really makes us different is that's our full focus is how can we curate and craft experiences that lead to people having a good time in a non-costly way. And I think that you can do that in a lot of different mood states and effect states and in a lot of different novel and unique ways. And so we're pursuing different adaptogens and botanicals and fungi and then modernizing those with new technology like nano-emulsion and unique extraction techniques in order to pull out some of these active or feel good or fun or productive or beneficial profiles in effects and infuse those into something net new, which is challenging as hell and rewarding when you figure it out.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm just super interested to keep following along your guys' journey. Just a couple questions I wanted to ask you before we wrap up. One is you're in West Palm Beach. What's it like there? What's the entrepreneurial scene like that? I spent a year and a bit in Miami, so I feel like I know a little bit what that's like. Like there's not a lot of CPG there, but there actually are some beverage companies specifically. And there are some other well-known ones in Florida as well, like Celsius came out of Florida and a couple others. So yeah, what's it been like for you there as a beverage company?
Celsius is actually out of Palm Beach County, funny enough. So right here in my neighborhood. But I love Florida. Like it is just a very free state. It is very focused on like individual liberty and business and free market. And so those are really good conditions for business, regardless of the category. For a long time, Florida was not a startup hub. It was not an e-commerce hub. It was not any of it. Not a CPG hub, really, even none of it. And then I think in the last maybe 3-4 years, that started to change. Miami's really took off. There's a lot of great entrepreneurs, a great scene there. In West Palm, it's less concentrated of scene just due to the populace. And I think the people who are often here, there's a lot of old money in Palm Beach. There's a lot of like more classic traditional industries that retire here. And then there's a lot of finance activity here. So banks and hedge funds. And so there's been kind of like a gap between the entrepreneurial ecosystem and that. And I think it's changing quickly, but it's a great place to live. I don't know if it's the best place to build the business, but if you're, the internet kind of broke down a lot of those barriers, it's like, we're having this great conversation now and that might not have been as frequent before, but I think now in this new age, I think it's less location dependent. It's more so how can you tap into communities that allow you to further your education and learnings and then connection and amplify what you're working on. And so that's what I optimize for is connecting with people online.
Makes sense. And, state tax also is pretty good.
Great benefit.
Florida.
Great benefit.
And yeah, just like personally, I'm curious, you seem like a, hip guy. Like what do you do on the weekends in West Palm Beach? What goes down?
Absolutely. Well, I love board sports. I'm like a big skater. I like surfing. I don't know if actually I'll show you. You ever seen one of these? This is a one wheel, great brand, by the way, great e-commerce brand and CPG or consumer brand. But it's essentially a board that's kind of feels like you're floating and you just kind of fly around. And so if I'm not working, I'm probably hovering around my city on my one wheel, kind of cruising and listening to some EDM. When I'm not doing that, I like to go to cool events and music scenes. I'm going to Burning Man. I'll leave tonight actually. So I'll be gone for a week. And I'm a big proponent and believer that if you're living your best life and doing fun things regularly, that you'll create really good work. And I think that great work and great creativity comes from living fully. And I optimize for that wholly. Is I'm looking for opportunities to have a lot of fun and connect with a lot of people and enjoy life, because I think that bleeds into and leads into creating really cool products and really cool ideas.
I love it, man. That's great. And so, okay, last one, just as a retrospective, you guys obviously are crushing it. Like, it's hard to imagine how it could have gone better. But is there anything looking back at the last, 15 months or that like, oh, you know what, one thing actually I would have done a little bit differently, whether it's something operationally or on the sales side or marketing, like anything you can think of?
Yeah. Well, first off, I'd say like there's a quote by Steve Jobs I really like, which he says, it's always surprised him how long instant success takes. And it's like the thing is like BRÄZ looks so like we just came out about it overnight and succeeded. But I have 15 years of e-commerce experience, and in e-commerce, 15 years is a really long time because it hasn't really been an industry for much longer than that. And so that, and then we have a lot of background in the hemp space. So I'd say is like, I hope I don't make it seem a little too easy, because there is a lot of experience that led and leaning on our skill set that led us to finding outsized returns faster than most do. And I think that's possible if you lean into whatever your skill sets are. But looking back, like the things I would have done differently is I would have prioritized a bit more emphasis on retail expansion, so we weren't so lopsided today, to be honest. Like if I could have got that moving a little bit faster, so that way I was a little bit more diversified in our revenue channels, I'd feel more confident. And we're playing a little bit of a catch up on the retail side to kind of like, compare or even to just diversify our revenue. I think that's one. I think two is hiring really good people soon, if you can afford it or if you can find them. I took a little too long to bring in some key players, and then that led to some rework of the past rather than continue just progress into the future. And so probably those two things. I think I'll say one more last thing. A lot of people waste a lot of money because they think that they have to spend a certain amount on Facebook ads, or they have to do a certain, like it's like SEO, right? You hear this in SEO the most often. You got to just work with an SEO team for 6 months. And then after 6 months, you'll get results. So then what happens is, whether it's advertising or SEO or what have you in the digital landscape, is you have brands invest 6 months of capital, hoping that one day magically it's going to change. That's not how it works, and you shouldn't listen to that BS. It's not really like that. For BRÄZ, we were spending $100 a day, and we did not increase that budget until we were profitable at that budget. And then once we increased it. And I think that one optimization will save a lot of businesses from dying.
I love it. For me, that's we actually had a webinar the other day, and it was on balancing growth and profitability. And the thing that we talked about the most was actually like, hey, what did everyone spend money on that they shouldn't have? And it's number one is marketing. And I think for a lot of people, it's like, well, we thought we had to build up our, Instagram, and like we would just had to spend money like this, and it was okay that it's expensive. PR retainers also came up on that one of just like,
for sure.
Oh, geez. So yeah,
I did really waste money there too. I did wasted some money on PR out of the gate that cost me way more than I expected. Well, and I'll tell you one last one is creative. A lot of people think that they got to invest a lot in video production or whatnot. Like, just whip out your phone and shoot a video of you talking about your product and how unique and valuable it is. I mean, the top performing ads that have made us millions of dollars in revenue are literally me sitting in front of my phone telling people why I love what we built and why I think they will love it as well. And that works sometimes infinitely better than a high production, high cost video would.
That's for us. Those are always the videos that do best. Is me just like when there's good lighting, sitting down with somebody, being like, just talk me through this product.
Exactly.
Right now. And you get their natural ease and enthusiasm. I love it. Okay, Aaron, you guys are crushing it. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast and just breaking it down for all of us a little bit who are just like kind of watching this rocket ship to get under the hood of it a little bit. So thank you very much. And I hope everybody gets to check out the product and we'll be feeling breezy.
Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it. See you later.
Thanks. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. If you loved it, I would so appreciate it if you could leave us a review. You could do it right now. If you're an Apple Podcast, you can scroll to the bottom of our Startup CPG podcast page and click on Write a Review. Leave your company name in there. I will try to read it out. If you're in Spotify, you can click on About and then the star rating icon. If you are a service provider that would like to appear on the Startup CPG podcast, you can email us at partnerships@startupcpg.com. Lastly, if you found yourself grooving along to the music, it is my band. You can visit our website and listen to more. It is superfantastics.com. Thank you, everybody. See you next time.